All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host today, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and I'm here with my good friends Dan and Lori and Jason and Catherine. And today we are continuing our discussion of Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Myss. We're in chapter 5, and chapter 5 is about identifying your archetypal patterns. And last week we discussed a couple different archetypes, the queen archetype and the king archetype, because it kind of was brought up in the first part of this one section. We're actually on page 150 in the part that's titled Letters to Your Archetype. So we may go ahead and just read this section, see what comes up for us, and then maybe read another one or two of the archetypes and see where that goes. So I guess we'll just kind of play it by ear on that, because there's so many different archetypes, and identifying your own personal archetypes is a big part of this, and that it would take us forever to read through all of those. So we're just kind of picking a few here and there and sharing our thoughts on them. And for those of you who are out there and you're watching, I recommend just getting the book, and that way you can look through the whole list of archetypes and see which ones that you identify with, and you can learn more about that and how you can work with those in order to make differences in your life. So before we get going, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves. And for those of you who are watching, if you want to join us, we would love to have you. You just need to find us on Facebook. It's Mindset Mastery Collective. And if you're on our YouTube channel, there'll be links in our, like, on our channel page of our different websites. And one of them is the Facebook group link. So, okay, jump out, guys, and introduce yourselves.
Lori Emmons in Denver.
And Susik in Las Vegas.
Hey, it's Jason in Tampa.
Good morning, it's Catherine Clement here. And I'll start reading at Letters to Your Archetype. Try this exercise if you find it more appealing than interviewing your archetype. Write a letter to your archetype explaining how you discovered it and why you think it, in particular, is in your life. And tell it about the situations in which it reared its head or stepped to the front of the stage. Talk to it in the second person, as in, here's where I believe I see you, quote, my victim, working in my thoughts and actions. I see you in my need for people's approval. I see you in my belief that people are rejecting me if I don't get the attention I feel I need. I see you in my belief that others have more opportunities than I do. Now that I know you're there, how can I make you into a friend or ally or at least a benign force? I see you every time I hear myself say, why is this happening to me? Or feel myself becoming angry when I think other people are preventing me from doing what I want. What does your negative or critical or destructive side need in order to stop getting me into trouble or bothering me and to become positive or supportive or even powerfully positive? What will it take from me to change my thoughts and actions to make you more important or to subdue your influence? What do you need? What is it that you're teaching me? Take as long as 10 minutes to a half hour to write your letter. After you've written as much as you feel is necessary to elicit a response from your archetype, sit for a couple of minutes and let yourself think about what you've written. It might be good to take a break and stretch, get yourself a glass of water or a cup of tea, even change your seat, because now you're going to enter into the persona and mind of the archetype and write yourself a response. Have the archetype write you back, addressing the questions that you and it feels responses for. The first archetype I want you to interview and write to is your child, because it is the easiest for many. As an option with this archetype only, you can use the technique of writing the questions with your dominant hand and answering them with your opposite hand. For instance, if you're right-handed, I want your child to answer you with its left hand. If you're left-handed, your child will answer you with its right. This technique will help you gain access to your intuitive, unconscious mind because it requires you to focus without distraction to maneuver your opposite hand. Yes, This will take longer, just as it took you a while to learn to write and drag thoughts from your mind to the paper when you were just learning. But it will give you a physical and emotional connection to your child, and it may cut right to the chase, since your child will not want to write for a long time and will give you frank, succinct answers. Once you have the letters and responses, I want you to take another short break, stretch, and then find a neutral seat to reread the letters and listen to the voices. Do you see any places where you can begin to meet the archetype's needs and work with it, your needs and energy? For example, what changes would you immediately implement in your life as a result of dialoguing with this archetype? Are you more easily able to recognize the voice of this archetype when you hear it speaking to you? Do you see any reasons why you would not cooperate with the suggestions that your child archetype has made? Do we want to talk about the child, or do you want me to continue with Warrior on Demand?
Yeah, I was going to make a note that on here real quick, and then I can skip ahead to the appendix and we can look at the child and read through that and see what it says, and then we can kind of discuss it from there. Let's
Okay.
see. Let me make my note here.
I'm just going to jump out and say offhand, just before you jump in, I think the child, in that sense, is probably the one, like you said, that we all really do carry with us throughout our life, is the one that's so easily, readily there that we revert to. I think now it's just understanding more of how to deal with that aspect. And so I'm going to be interested to hear when you read that, or Samantha.
Okay, so in the appendix under child, there's actually multiple different child archetypes. So I'll just read the titles and then if one of you is like, okay, well, let's read that one or this one, whichever one we identify with, then we can dig into that one a little bit. Okay, so the beginning of it, the first part, the description of the child says, and then in parentheses, it says orphan, wounded, magical, innocent, nature, divine, pure or eternal, or eternal boy, girl. So it says everyone has expressions of each one of these aspects of the child when within his or her psyche, although one aspect is usually so dominant that it eclipses the energy of the others. The wounded child, for example, can be so needy that it is almost impossible for the magical child to manifest its qualities. At the same time, because every one of the child aspects is present in various degrees of strength in every psyche, similar patterns of often overlap, making it hard to distinguish which one you relate to most intensely. You may find that you relate equally to the orphan and the wounded child, or the pure eternus and the nature child. When this is the case, choose one and include the specific qualities that you relate to in the other archetype as you investigate the psyche of this archetype in your life. Okay, so then we've got the descriptions of the different ones. So we've got the child, which is the child orphan, the child wounded, the child magical innocent, child divine, child nature, child pure eternus, aka eternal boy or girl. And okay, so that's all of those. So
I can jump out and say too, for me, the wounded child, and
okay.
oddly enough, the nature.
Okay.
And I don't know how those play
How
with each
funny,
other,
that's
because
the same
to me,
too.
there's seem to me to be so opposite.
That's so funny. Those are the same two that jump out for me.
Okay.
I want to really get in touch with my magical child.
Okay. So you said child wounded?
Wounded child and
nature.
nature.
Okay. How about you, Jason or Catherine?
Those are good. I have all of them, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. Any jump out specifically
I
to
got
you,
a whole
Jason?
little kindergarten of children.
Probably the whimsical.
Whimsical, the
I
one
can
And
see
the
that.
magical or innocent.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll read
I
the.
mean, so I have a question though.
Mhm.
So we each all carry every one of these. We have to some degree. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's what she's suggesting. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Some aspect of
Yeah,
them.
I see.
in parts
Honestly,
today.
I don't. Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't. I'll just go ahead with whimsical, but I really don't know because I don't have a. It's like I don't know the voices or whatever. There's not very strong at all in
Okay.
regards to that, but maybe I'm just not recognizing it. So
All
who
right.
knows?
Well, I'll go ahead and read
Sounds good.
what these ones say that we know for sure. So if we're looking at child wounded, the wounded child archetype holds the memories of abuse, neglect, or other traumas that we have endured during childhood. This may be the pattern people relate to the most, particularly since it has become the focus of therapy and accepted as a major culprit in the analysis of adult suffering. Choosing the wounded child suggests that you credit the painful and abusive experiences of your childhood with having a substantial. Many people blame their wound, for instance, for all of their experiences of the wounded child archetype.
You're
Is
breaking
she
up. I
going in
can't
and
hear you.
out for everybody
Often
or just
awaken a deep. Oh, am I
I
breaking
think
up? I'm sorry.
someone's.
No, I had a call come in. I think it might have
Oh,
interfered with
Oh,
us.
okay. Can you
All right. Well,
reread that? I'm sorry, Samantha.
sure.
It's
Yeah,
going in and
please.
out.
Okay. Yeah. Let me know if I start breaking up again, and then we'll go from there. If that's the problem, then I can
Okay.
send the. Yeah. Okay. All right. Child wounded. The wounded child archetype holds the memories of the abuse, neglect, and other traumas that we have endured during childhood. This may be the pattern people relate to the most, particularly since it has become the focus of therapy and accepted as major culprit in the analysis of adult suffering. Choosing the wounded child suggests that you credit the painful and abusive experiences of your childhood with having a substantial influence on your adult life. Many people blame their wounded child, for instance, for all their subsequent dysfunctional relationships. The painful experiences of the wounded child archetype often awaken a deep sense of compassion and a desire to find a path of service aimed at helping other wounded children. From a spiritual perspective, a wounded child from a spiritual perspective, a wounded childhood cracks open the learning path of forgiveness. The shadow aspects may manifest as an abiding sense of self-pity, a tendency to blame your parents for your current shortcomings, and to resist moving on through forgiveness. All right, and some examples in film would be Diana Scarwood in Mommy Dearest, Dean Stockwell in The Secret Garden, Linda Blair in The Exorcist, Natalie Wood in The Miracle on 34th Street, Leonardo DiCaprio in This Boy's Life, and John Voight in Midnight Cowboy. And then in fiction stories, Native Son by Richard Wright, Oliver Twist by Dickens,
you're
and
breaking
then
up
Into the
again.
Thief of
You
Bow and
froze
Arrow.
up.
Dang
Just
it.
at the end. Just at the
Okay.
end. Everything else was perfectly clear. Maybe the last paragraph or something that you just read.
You think? Am I still
Nope.
reading? Am I frozen?
It was
I heard
frozen that whole
Catherine.
time.
What
Sorry.
the heck? What is going on with my internet?
I don't know, because it was like so clear, and then all of a sudden it
And
just
then just all of a sudden, let me see if I can switch to a different.
it's our wounded children
All right,
trying to get
hang
our
on.
You
attention.
finished up the.
Let me switch to my other one.
Okay.
I don't know. Wait, where is it? Oh, there it is. It may freeze for a second and then come back. See what it does.
Pause for technical difficulties.
All right.
Always.
Now it's saying, okay, it says I'm connected to the other network now. So let me see.
All
You're
right.
hearing me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Just try that last sentence or two.
Okay, so the last part was where it was talking about examples in religion and myth, and it says the Amazons, warrior women of Greek myth, who as children had their right breast removed to facilitate the use of bow and arrow, their chief weapon. So obviously,
Oh
I'm kind of
no.
curious.
Okay, it did good right up to the very end there. Now I shoot a bow quite well with my right breast, so I don't understand that shit at all.
I'm not going with that.
I hope that's not something that they really did, but good Lord.
Well, that was in literature, so or you know,
And it
stuff like
says
that.
myth, so warrior women of Greek myth, so hopefully. Oh,
Well, I'm going to say this and try not to sound, but I think if you go back to probably a lot of those myths were probably written by men
based in some kind of truth or
or no, written by men, and maybe they thought that, you know, somehow shooting the bow, the breast would get in the way, so they said they got rid of it.
I don't know.
And they may have
But
been bustier than I am. That could totally, if you had really big boobs, I can see where that would get in the way. But
but
Uh,
but
I think I'd be trying to figure out a way to squish it to the side.
Yeah.
Spanx for boobs.
Well, I know when they had Spanx back then, but you know, I would think they'd have some leather, you know, strips or something. Oh my gosh. All right, so that's the wounded child. All right, let's read the nature child.
I'd
Let's
be
see.
wounded
Oh,
too if somebody cut my boob off.
well, hell yeah, all right. Good Lord.
That's the wounding of the worst kind.
Yeah. All right, let's on. Okay. All right, the next one is magical innocent child. Okay. The magical child represents the part of us that is both enchanted and enchanting to others. It sees the potential for sacred beauty in all things. All right, who's trying to join us here? Oh, Jason joining us from his computer. Okay, there we go. All right. It sees the potential for sacred beauty in all things, exemplified by Tiny Tim in Dickens' Christmas Carol, and by Anne Frank, who wrote in her diary that in spite of all the horror surrounding her family while hiding from Nazis in an attic in Amsterdam, she still believed that humanity was basically good. Her insights, offered at a time when most people were collapsing under the weight of war and persecution, continue to inspire people to seek out the wondrous side of life, even in crisis. One might assume from the name that this archetype refers only to delightful qualities of children, but as demonstrated by Anne Frank and Tiny Tim, it also embodies qualities of wisdom and courage in the face of difficult circumstances. Baudelaire wrote that genius is childhood recaptured, and in that sense, the magical child is something of a genius too. The magical child is gifted with the power of imagination and the belief that everything is possible. The shadow energy of the magical child manifests as the absence of possibility of miracles and transformation of evil to good. Attitudes of pessimism and depression, particularly when exploring dreams, often emerge from an injured magical child whose dreams were once upon a time whose dreams were once upon a time thought foolish by cynical adults. The shadow may also manifest as a belief that energy and actions are not required, allowing one to retreat into fantasy. All right, so we've got examples in film are Drew Barrymore in E.T., Margaret O'Brien in Meet Me in St. Louis, George DeFrazin in Ma Vie en Rose, Shirley Temple in Heidi, and Wee Willie Winky. I don't remember that one. It's been a while since I've seen any Shirley Temple movies. Fiction books. Okay, so The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, Pippi Longstocking by Astrid Lindgren, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and Through the Looking Glass, and What Alice Found There by Lewis Carroll. And then in religion and myth examples, we've got Merlin in Arthurian legend, the child without a father who was about to be sacrificed when he saved himself by displaying magic greater than the king's sorcerers. Okay. I think I can relate to that one in a lot of different ways. Okay. Then we had Child Nature was another one that we wanted to look at. And I skipped over Child Divine, but I can read that one if you guys want me to.
Yeah, go to child nature.
Okay. All right. So child nature, this archetype inspires deep, intimate bonding with natural forces and has a particular affinity for friendships with animals. Although the nature child has tender emotional qualities, it can also have an inner toughness and ability to survive, the resilience of nature herself. Nature children can develop advanced skills of communicating with animals, and in stories reflecting this archetypal as an animal often comes to the rescue of its child companion. Many veterinarians and animal rights activists resonate with this archetype because they felt a conscious rapport with animals since childhood. Other adults describe being in communication with nature spirits and learning to work in harmony with them in maintaining the order of nature. The shadow aspect of the nature child manifests in a tendency to abuse animals and people and the environment. A love of animals is not sufficient to qualify for this archetype. However, a life pattern of relating to animals in an intimate and caring way to the extent that your psyche and spirit need these bonds as a crucial part of your own well-being is your best clue in this direction. All right, then we've got film examples. Elizabeth Taylor in National Velvet, Anna Paquin in Fly Away Home, Claude Jarman in The Yearling, Kelly Reno in The Black Stallion, Tommy Kirk in Old Yeller, John Pierre Cargill in The Wild Child. Television examples, Rin Tin Tin, Flipper, My Friend Flicka, and Lassie. Fiction examples, Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs. A song example, Nature Boy. And then religion and myth examples, Persephone in the Greek myth, the daughter of Demeter, who was abducted to Hades and was associated with the agricultural cycles of growth and harvest. St. Francis of Assisi, the Catholic friar said to have communicated with animals. All right, and then we have the only other one left is the child Purell Eternus, which is eternal boy or girl. So I'm guessing the Purell Eternus is like Latin or something. But okay, so let's go back to what it was telling us in that other section about questioning these aspects of ourselves. Okay, and I'm not going to say here, let's all write this stuff out, but if we can kind of think through some of these things. It says, talk to it in the second person, as in, here's where I believe I see you. We'll say my child instead of it says my victim. So either my child, what are our archetypes again? My wounded child, my nature child or my magical child. So I believe I see you working in my thoughts and actions. I see you in my need for people's approval. I see you in my belief that people are, oh, okay, well, this is the victim one, but so it says just talk to it in the second person, saying where I believe I see you, blank child, and then this is how it shows up. And then it also says, now that I know you're there, how can I make you my friend or ally, or at least a benign force? And then it also says, I see you every time I hear myself say blank, or I see you every time I feel myself becoming whatever emotion. And in this case, the victim was suggesting angry. What does your negative or critical or destructive side need in order to stop getting me into trouble? So then it's asking the archetype also, what do you need in order for me to, what will it take for me to change my thoughts and actions to make you more important or subdue your influence? What do you need? What is it that you're teaching me? So we can ask it some of those questions. So for example, if we're talking about the wounded child, is that the one we said, wounded child?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see you in my belief that, what comes up?
Everybody's gonna hurt me. Everybody's out to get me. Nobody's protecting me. Type thing.
yeah. I see it whenever anything really, really negative happens, I go there very easily. And I can stay in that because of whatever the negative is. And to me, for me, I think the victim and the child play right hand in hand together. Because I feel in some ways I was a victim because of, the abuse and everything, and as a child. So those two, I think, for me, are very closely related and play out together and dominate a lot of when things happen and go wrong. But the part of me, I think that's the strong part, and it goes back to the nature and because I grew up with dogs, cats around me, turtles, birds. I do love animals. I have my goldfish, but um, like the dogs in the house sitting, all the dogs I take care of, absolutely love me. They just want to be right there, right with me. There's just that, and I love that, because it's so unconditional. And I don't have to do anything. So for me, I think that's where all that plays together.
How about you, Catherine? I see you in my belief that, is that the same question I asked you, Dan?
I don't know. I've done a lot of work around the wounded child and the shadow aspect. I've done a lot of shadow work, but I don't know if I'm just like, because I don't blame my parents for anything during.
And that's the one thing I'm going to throw out that I'm learning from you, Catherine, is how to go back and relook at it and kind of look at it now from adult perspective and put myself as best as I can in those shoes from this side. And it's helped me release a lot of that. Not saying it's totally gone and not saying it still doesn't rear its head, but I thank you for some of that helping me learn and understand that.
It's also really good just to take your child up on your lap at different ages because we experience different traumas at different ages. So if you can take that child when he or she's 5 and set him on your lap and talk to him, and then take that 6-year-old child, take that, and you can work through a lot of that stuff, I think. The magical one, I can surely relate to. I mean, nature is my complete solace. So that one I can definitely, or I mean, the nature one I can definitely relate to, and the magical one too, actually, both of those. And I see them show up. I see the nature one show up when, I'm dealing with people, which are my least favorite to deal with. And I get super frustrated or something, and then I can just go outside for a minute and get completely recentered, because nature has such a calming effect on me.
Yeah,
But I
me
don't
too.
play the blame game much. I really don't play the blame game. I don't have that in my head, thank God. I drove that voice out.
I can see the wounded child showing up in me when I have two things that come to mind. One is when there's a confrontation and I want to run away. I don't like confrontation at all. And I don't like getting into arguments or even the slightest bit of disagreements. That I run away from. Not physically, but mentally, I try and run away, and I try and avoid it as much as possible. And I think that stems from me watching my parents arguing so much when we were younger. So most of my young life, my parents were at odds, and there was always that arguing with each other. And so I see that as a wound in some way. And of course, nowadays, because I've recognized that is one aspect of my internal psyche that is at play, is that I try and work on that more and I try and have productive conversations, like with my husband and myself, which is really interesting. Throughout our lives, we never really argued. I mean, we had issues, but I always like squashed them down because I don't want to argue. And we get into an argument and I'd want to go in the other way. I'd just be like, okay, I'm out, and go away. And so instead of discussing it, we would just ignore it or push it down. And but as I've grown over the years, now I can do kind of a both. I can we get into a discussion where we're at odds, and I have to take myself out of it because I get caught up in the emotions of it. But once I have that like 30-minute break to self-reflect, I can come back into the conversation and have a productive conversation, and that can be helpful. Now, the other aspect that I see the wounded child, is probably anytime I'm confronted with someone giving me advice I don't want to hear. And in other words, the side of telling me what to do and how to do it. If I think somebody's trying to give me advice and I'm not ready to hear it, I immediately go to my mom's trying to tell me what to do and how to do it, and I'm rejecting that, the rebel side, if you will. So that's how I feel like the wounded child shows up in me most prominently. I'm sure there's other aspects too, but that's what comes to mind first.
Don't forget the lesson of the Cowardly Lion, though, in The Wizard of Oz, which is, I don't have it word for word, but it is, don't mistake the wisdom to move away from something dangerous as fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's two different things, easily mistaken for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that you assume something's really bad and it's really not, and you run away from it. it just builds up that intensity for down the road that I think it leads into learning to run away from just about everything if you don't learn to handle that. And
Mhm.
I get what you're saying because because of my, aspects of my childhood, I don't really like confrontation either. But it's weird. When I get pushed, like I put in the chat, if I feel boxed in or feel like I have nowhere else to go and I can't really get away or something like that, that's when I come back and I'll get to that point where I don't care what I say, I don't care what I do, I don't care. You pushed me there. That's on you now at this point. I'll give warnings. I'll say, look, back off, let me, leave me alone for a while, let me have time to where I can, kind of like you, kind of re-look at it and at least re-look at it. I may not change where I'm feeling, but yeah, it's hard. A lot of this because in the moment you don't think like that a lot of times, and it's hard to say, wait a minute, let me stop, let me, let me rethink this, you just, I like that, that if you can get away and take that time out, I love that thought.
I was thinking the nature or the whimsical one, or the nature one I write, I connect with that one too, but the one the whimsical magical child, I really, the part when she was talking about finding the magic even in destruction or difficulties, I'm like, I've always been, I don't know about always, but I feel like that's been a big part of my life, is that even when going through stuff that a lot of people are just devastated completely by, is I still can see the beauty in it and the just the magic, if you will, or I wouldn't even call it magic, but just the awe. It's more of an awe sometimes. Like for example, when we used to live on the river and we would have these big and massive floods that, were so destructive and would take things from you that you just didn't even, I mean, you weren't expecting. And yet at the same time, in the middle of it, it was just so beautiful. It's like nature. All of the destructive nature is also so beautiful, and it can be an absolute destructor, but it's also it's just awe. And I remember I back when 9/11 happened, and I was working at the pet salon at that time, and we were all, we got the TV in the corner, and all of a sudden it comes on and talks about that. And of course, my first reaction is horror and, oh my God, and I can't believe this is happening and this is crazy, and all those, things, and worry and sympathy for the people involved, all of those came up. But then I also had this underlying thing that was like, I am witnessing something so major in a point in a history, and I'm a part of that. And it was awe to me, it was that other side of, wow, I'm part of this in history. And that it's obviously it's not magical and it's not a good thing that happened, but at the same time, it's like I was watching a show. What was the show? I don't know, some random movie. And in the movie, there was this part where there was a group of people and they were all doing the reenactment of the Gettysburg, whatever that was. And, they do the Civil War reenactments. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why would they do this? I mean, this is just a horrible event. So many people were killed, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm sitting here thinking, oh, okay, they're experiencing that history, and because they weren't a part of it, and so they're trying to, I don't know, get some historic perspective of it. And so then it kind of makes sense in this way, in the same way it did when I'm like, I was here, I saw that happen, kind of a thing. And you know, we can't say that for everything in history, but we all have things that happen in our lives that are a part of history that we're like, wow, I actually experienced that. So that's all
And
my
I
thoughts
lived
on that for
through
now.
it. And I lived through it.
What's that?
I just said the fact that I lived through it.
Mm-hmm.
Through
I was
what?
a witness of it.
911.
Yeah,
Oh,
9/11.
oh,
That was, I mean, that was one of the things that happened in our lifetime. You know, I mean, there's been other things like the whole COVID thing. I mean, that's a thing that we all experienced and lived through, and that's going to be a major thing in our history that people look back on. What are some other ones?
And
Well,
look
I
how
mean,
traumatic, before you move on from COVID, sorry about that, Dan, but look at
oh,
how traumatic that has been. It, I don't feel like it was traumatic to me at all, but I see younger generations, I don't know what they call themselves now, uh, X or millennials or what,
Gen
Zs or
Alpha.
whatever they are. I see them talk about what a traumatic event COVID has been on them and how it has completely changed their entire life forevermore. And like, I don't feel any of that from it at all. So it's interesting how different things traumatize different generations. Like, that'll be something that will have to be addressed in the future, or in these generations coming up, you know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're coming into a whole new world, though. They're
Oh, yeah.
everything that we've ever been taught to do and believe is changing. So
Yeah.
And I think, oh, go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say that I think the ironic part is that most people, I think the majority of people look back at their high school years and go, well, that was a big mess, and I just want to forget it. But a lot of those kids, you know, they didn't get the chance to experience it, so they think they hold it up on a pedestal as was going to be such a, you know, great thing, and they may not realize that they they might have been afforded the opportunity to um, not make not make such a mess of those years. Um, so, but that's just a kind of an ironic thing that I think of. A lot of people are, I mean, when you think about um, like high school reunions, um, and how those turn out so often, and it's I don't know. Anyway, anyway, oh, the other thing I wanted to say was in regards to your point about fear, Catherine, and wisdom, and I was thinking, just wanted to make the point because I've been looking into it a little bit, and a lot of people talk about um, how fear is, you know, it's okay to feel the fear, and I think the distinction there would be between not between fear and wisdom, but between wisdom and cowardness, with the cowardly lion, so that you feel the fear, but then you still do it anyway, or you have the wisdom to say, I better, you know, regroup and prepare more, and then go through it being more prepared, or you feel the fear and you go through it, and that's what courage is to do it even though feeling the fear, and that most people, even highly successful people, still feel the fear, but they do it what they need to do anyway, and they may, like as in what was being mentioned about taking a moment to gather your thoughts and prepare yourself before you do it. Um, using that, taking advantage of that wisdom to not do it at the moment, to not engage at the moment, but then to come back. You're still going to have the fear, but you're going to then at that point go ahead and go through and do it anyway. Anyway, sorry. Sorry. Thanks.
We had a great example of that last night. We have kind of this circular driveway, so the house is set back on the property a little bit further than most of the houses in this neighborhood. So these little kids trick or treating, because I'm out there, they have to walk up this long, dark driveway, and I could see where several times for some of the kids, the parents would have, like the kid was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And the parent was like, come on, let's walk over there. And of course, I wasn't dressed like anything scary or anything. So when they got to me, it was all smiles and candy. And then they were so proud of themselves for walking through that fear. So it's amazing how just little things in life can really challenge some of those beliefs.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Well, it's also how like I'll use Samantha as how some of what she's lived through and what she and her things that she deals with, whether it's the wounded child or the magical or the whimsical or nature, whatever. But now kind of being able to take that and then see that with like her grandkids and stuff and things like that, and kind of help them to not have some of the same drawbacks or you know, I hope you get what I'm saying, to where she can now, because of what she's understanding or learning, can then in turn pass that on, even to her kids too. Because I believe we all can learn and grow from the things to help them move forward without that wounded child or lessen that wounded child or or build up that nature child or things like that, build up the things to grow stronger and not let it overtake and hamper. And I think that's, we all have that ability to do that for ourselves and for others through like what we do here, with the books and the things and talking and all that too.
To me, it's been a lot of that song or wherever it came from, that if only I had known then what I know now, and I want to be able to go back and correct the things that I was unable to do for my children, that I never received or whatever. And that's a lot of regret, and I try not to go there. Because I can't fix anything now.
There lies the question, though. Can we fix that now? From a quantum perspective, they would say that we can. I've been reading numerous different things that are coming up that are saying that the present influences the past. And that's a mind shift right there.
Oh, big time.
you know, and we do know that if we change the way we think about things, especially the past, that changes the now. And, you know, so I question that whole, can we, I mean, obviously we can't go back and do things differently, but we can change, we can reimagine those things back then. And that can influence our present. So I'm curious about that. I think that there is some possibility there of thinking back in those times or reimagining them how we wish we had been or wish things had been, and take that forward with us and see where that takes us. Because like you said, you know, if we think back and we just are in that space of regret, then we stay in that space of regret. But if we can think back and think of the things we did do right and amplify those more in our lives, then maybe that's where the change comes in and that's where it makes a difference. So yeah, Catherine's got to go, and we've got another Zoom that we're supposed to be on here directly. So I'm going to give you guys an opportunity if you want to share some last thoughts before I jump off, and then we can wrap it up for today. Have a good one, Catherine. We'll see you in a bit.
I
Bye,
will.
Catherine.
Bye, Catherine. I will throw out.
Thank you.
I think I'm learning from even going back and re-looking aspects of my childhood and things like that. I can't change what happened. I can't change how I originally felt and that it's still a part of me. But I have gone back and put some context into aspects and under I think grown from an adult perspective and re-looking at my mom's life and what she went through from getting married at 15 and a half, then having a kid at 16, then having another kid 13 and a half months later, then having a couple years later another child, and I don't remember that which way it went, but one died of crib death, and then another child a couple years later and was stillborn. So by the time she was 20, she dealt with a lot of stuff as a kid still, did not know how to react and treat with her kids, and then married a second husband who also didn't know. And so hence some of what I lived through, which is no way anywhere near as bad as some kids. I'm not in, but for me it was traumatic. But I've been able to go back and re-look at that and give myself a better understanding, not taking away my pain or hurt, but not, and going back to like Catherine said, I can shift the blame a little bit and take out a little bit of that sting of, oh, what did I do wrong? No, it's not what did I do wrong. It's she was dealing with so much and she didn't know how herself to go. And it's helped me forgive her and get to the point where now I'm working and wanting to get that relationship somewhere. It will never be what it could have been, but so I think we can do that. I think we can go back and relook and then take that forward and carry it forward and go with that and go forward and make changes from there. That's my little bit.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dan. Kind of goes along with what Catherine or what Samantha just said about reframing things as well. And also what Lori was saying, at least we can't go back, but we can use what we know now about reframing and think back and reframe those things. I just want to add that it occurred to me that since utilizing what Catherine was talking about with taking our child archetypes on our lap and talking to them. I'm wondering how, I'm thinking also in conjunction with the idea that that we default to doing things from our comfort zone. And so the majority of the things we do throughout our life is from our comfort zone. Wonder if it would be of any benefit to sort of take our childlike self, not necessarily even our archetype, but just think of ourselves as at each age and what we're going through at each age. There might be some trouble spots or whatever, but take ourselves on our lap and talk to ourselves and see and kind of focus in on those things, that what was going on. And I'm thinking in the idea that, if we are, we're not blaming others, but we're blaming ourselves a little bit. If we think back to, well, it's normal, completely normal to be acting from our comfort zone. We didn't know back then what the difference was, and we could ask ourselves if, you know, what would it mean to have stepped out of our comfort zone at whatever age, and analyze it from that perspective. If, ask ourselves, well, do we blame ourselves for not stepping out of our comfort zone at that age, and would that have made any difference, or would it be would it have been helpful? Would it have made a big difference? Or can you even blame yourself for not doing that? And kind of allowing yourself to realize, what it was you could have done and what you decided not to, and put it in perspective that it was really actually natural and normal to not to not go out of your comfort zone in those moments. But definitely the reframing of things as you're going through your different ages in your life. I I feel like, at least for me, there are certain times where I can, if I really go back, I can think that if I really go back, I can probably drum up some times that I've completely forgot about, some ages that seemed like they weren't, maybe they weren't consequential, or they weren't, or I just had to put them aside because the things that happened later made them inconsequential. And so you don't really go back to discover them. And maybe then those places, in those time frames, there might be some answers that we're looking for. But I like that idea that Catherine was saying about bringing our child archetype up on our laps and talking to them. I don't know if I do that with every single type of archetype, but I mean, if we do that for ourselves at each age, we get a better understanding of where we came from, um, what kind of makes us who we are, and then also rediscover those, the types of person we are or were back then, and kind of bring that forward to the now. I guess I'm saying. So anyway, thank you so much for the time to speak, and thanks so much for all your great ideas, everybody. I love you. Have a great weekend.
Love you all. Have a great week.
Love ya. You have a good week.
I love what you said there, Jason, and it reminded me, and when you were speaking too, Dan, about I had an idea come into my head with the the taking the child on your lap of your younger self, or the aspect of yourself that you feel like is showing up in these archetypes. And my thought on it was saying to myself, I can, let me preface. So I can think of times in my life where I'm upset with myself for having done or not done something in one way or another, where it's, you know, the regret side of it, or with you, if you will. And, but I can see how if I were to take that younger version of myself on my lap or sit next to me, depending on what age it is or whatever, and I was to have a conversation with her and say, you know, I'm sorry for being so angry at you for all of this time, for this decision or this action or this whatever that you did or didn't do. And I'm actually really proud of you for this that you did and that you did and this that you said and this is how you acted. And when I had that kind of come into my mind, I'm like, that changes everything. That just changes so much in my internal well-being, to be able to like have that conversation and be like, you know, I'm sorry I'm sorry I've been so mad at you. You were so amazing in this way and that way and da 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 da, you know. And if we did that to all the past hurts in our past, you know, of all the things that come up with us, you know, every time something comes up where we're like, God, I wish I'd have done da 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 da, you know, or I wish I'd have done this, or life was sucky at this point and this happened and that happened and I'm just so frustrated. If only I had done such and such, my life would be blah 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 blah. And so we do that. We have that tendency to do that to ourselves. But if we could instead, you know, say to ourselves something completely different about how amazing we were at that point in time and the things that we did amazingly, that could change everything. And but I also had a thought, Dan, when you were talking about your mom and everything that she experienced back then, and obviously she caused a lot of hurt for you, but what if you were to take that young version of her on your knee and have conversations with her and be like, I realize that now I've been so angry at you for all these years for this and that and the other. And I realize now that you didn't know any better, or you didn't know, or you were dealing with this and you were dealing with that. And here's the things that I appreciate from back then. Here's the things that I did appreciate. Yeah, I don't know, something along that lines of, you know, I'm sorry for being so mad at you for all this time. And I understand now. And yeah, I don't know. It was just like because I've kind of done that with my parents to some extent, not directly to their face. I mean, I have to my mom because we have those conversations sometimes, but um, I never call her out on all the crap that she did that I hated or that I was upset about. But I have said sometimes when she's talking, because she has a lot of regret too. Like Lori, like you've talked about having a lot of regret with your kids. And my mom has mentioned that. And of course, if we bring it up, then she gets all defensive. But if she's bringing it up, I'm like, you know, Mom, I understand. I don't understand everything, but I can see now from an adult perspective how hard that was for you. And I forgive you, and you need to forgive yourself, you know. So I don't know. It's changed a lot with my relationship with my mom. And obviously I did not have the same level of unpleasantness in my childhood that you had in yours, Dan. But I do know that even if you never say that specifically to her face, is that saying it within yourself to her can change how you feel and change how you experience that past trauma that you keep going through. And if you kind of, when it comes up, because we all go through it, you know, the things that happened in the past, they keep coming up, and that's the crap we have to keep working on. And here's another way that we can work on it. So I appreciate you guys all so very much. And we've discussed so many things over the years, and we've made so much progress on growing ourselves and becoming the better version of ourselves. And I know that I wouldn't have been able to do this work without you guys. I mean, you are key to it. And I'm thankful for all of you. And I just love you so much. So
Same here, and I don't want us to ever stop because I'm gonna need it till the day I die.
right?
So I don't want us to stop. So
I know. I know. All right. Well, we got to stop for today though. So
okay,
all
love you
right,
guys.
everybody have an awesome, amazing week. And for those of you who are watching, if you found value in this video, by all means, click like, subscribe to our channel so you'll get an update every time we upload a new video, and share it with anybody you think you would find it helpful. And if you want to join us, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for Mindset Mastery Collective. You can get in our Facebook group. The featured post has links to all our recordings, and it also has a link to get into our weekly meeting is on Zoom, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, just about, I'm not gonna say every Saturday, but just about every Saturday we do this, unless something's coming up for one of us and we just can't. That is what it is. So with that, have an awesome, amazing week, and we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.